Welcome to the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips. As a leading manifestation advisor with a process that's, radically different from the old New Age model, mine is rooted in psychology, neuroscience, and my energetic gifts. Therefore, I created this podcast to help you expand your subconscious limiting beliefs about the potential of deserving the manifestations you're calling in. In each episode, we'll walk through my expanders, a term in my manifestation formula signaling the people that already embody, have, or are successful in what we are looking to call in. These are the people that we witness through our mirror neurons on a subconscious level that expand us into knowing that our manifestations are possible as well. Especially when we hear about their background, their upbringing, their trials and tribulations, and any of their pitfalls that they had to experience along the way. Therefore, you're tuning into this podcast series to show your subconscious that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, you've already started the process of manifesting it. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us our review, comment, and share it with your fellow manifester that's struggling or could really benefit from the information that you're about to learn. Welcome back, everybody. So today I want to talk about the trigger, since you guys are deep in the daily reprogramming exercise challenge, 30-day challenge through the Formula Magnetism Workshop. I know a lot of you are probably calling in things that have to do with money and abundance and career. So I'm trying to diversify all the triggers we talk about this month so you can get such a solid idea of the different ways you can interact with triggers and take them through the daily reprogramming exercise. Today, I want to focus on the energetics of money, or the fact that if you've ever made money, or you've grown up in oppression, or you grew up in wealth, and you find yourself today in a place where you desire more money. Money is one of the easiest energetics to work with when you really get it down. Money and love, because they're very connected. But the old superstition that what if I never make money again? Or what if I never have money again? I need to tell you so openly, I have worked with people from high school ages around money all the way into deep retirement around money. Money is accessible to everybody. I just want to plant that belief in you, no matter where you stand on the spectrum, where you stand in, whatever cultural programming you grew up in, whatever gender, sexual preference, race, country. It is so important to know that as physical beings in the physical plane, we all deserve to have whatever we physically desire from our core authentic essence. And this is coming from somebody who grew up with two very broke parents who did not have their financial shit together whatsoever. And I have gone on to financially surpass and over-earn out of everybody in my family, including the highly educated with upper education to no education, no formal higher education. And it's because I figured out the energetics of money. It's that simple. And so to give you a little bit of background on me, just so that you can identify with me a little bit, is that when I was little, it was very common to have my mom be like, shh, we're writing a hot check. We don't have money for this. I mean, there was so much lack programming. We moved every 6 months to a year max at times to different apartments. And it wasn't uncommon for me. One time I came home and I was like, I want to ride this bike that my dad had custom put together for me. And I said, where are my toys? And my mom said, I couldn't pay the storage this month, so all of the toys are gone. Like, I really understand what it feels like financially, having all rugs pulled out from under me. And not only that, I grew up in very lack Irish mentality. Work hard, do blue collar jobs, you'll never make a lot of money. And, that's just sort of the way it goes. So I overcame all of that programming. Anybody can overcome any type of financial oppression. And it's easier and more accessible to some, but also I've known many clients who have been, refugees or their first generation from refugees, and they're doing financially great as well. So I just want to plant that belief. And that's not to say that, not to take away the validation of pain and trauma through those experiences. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm really trying to do is empower whatever walk of life you come from. If you want to be financially abundant and successful, you 1000% can be. I'm giving you licensing to feel that. So that's really what I want to say. So around the energetics of money, it is so important. And of course, we have a whole workshop on this called Opulence, but right now we're dealing with the triggers. If you are calling in anything through the Formula and Magnetism workshop this year for 2019 regarding career abundance, higher abundance, we have to reframe our superstition around money. We have to look at all of the programming we come from around money. And when we're doing that, we need to look at the triggers we have around money. And in Opulence, it obviously takes you through a lot of the reinforced programming you grew up with. So if you grew up with your same-sex parents staying at home, for you're having to go out and find a lot more expanders within your typical career that you're wanting to expand through to open up portals. That's a very important part of this process, because I studied for years the whole think positive model, and you visualize that $5,000 check going into, coming to your account. I've had weird things happen like that to me before, but there's no consistency of results. So if we're actually really trying to upgrade and really make money, I want to empower you to start looking at every trigger you've grown up with. So if you've grown up with any triggers around a reinforcement that you couldn't make money, that you grew up in an environment where there was a big lack mentality, where you grew up, and again, this is really common with, I call my clients transplants. So if they're first generation or they grew up in any form of immigration that reinforced back to them that they would be in poverty or that they couldn't come out of poverty, that all needs to be reprogrammed. So if this is resonating with you, if you have things on your list that you're calling in 2019, I need you to look at every single thing you're calling in and ask yourself through the daily reprogramming prompts that we have inside of that workshop. Before you go into the hypnosis, you need to ask yourself, what are my limiting beliefs around this thing I'm calling in? You need to unblock all of them. It is so important. And if you want to take it to the next level, move into Opulence to really take it much deeper, to learn how to open portals and all the things that go with it. So more than anything, this intro is just completely giving you licensing that you can have anything you want and be unblocking any limiting beliefs you have around what you are calling in financially for 2019. Another really important thing I want to talk about, it took me a long time to expand, you guys. Expansion is so important, as are portals, which you'll learn about in Opulence. Expansion is so important. I was the person who, with my ex, we would be in Corsica with his beautiful family, just such bohemians on the beach, and I'm the person who's reading David Bach's Smart Women Finish Rich. And I'm literally a waitress at the time making $300 a week. And I'm like, when I have any money to my name, I don't care if I'm making $30,000 a year, I am going to learn how to invest it so I can make my money work for me. If you are out there and listening to this, you need to learn strategy and investment, and you need to learn passive income, and you need to go and surround yourself around 8 people who are wealthier than you are. And so that they can give you referrals when you have just the tiniest bit of money you manifest, that you can go to their financial advisor and start to invest that you can start to look and see how they create wealth. And that way it expands your subconscious to see how you can do the same. You need to be expanding. If you don't directly have those people in your life yet, start through the resources of books, start reading blogs that are all about finances and how to invest at whatever level of money you make right now or that you have to your name. Once you start to do that and unblock your limiting beliefs, you're naturally going to start attracting people into your life that make more money and have more wealth than you do, or they're in the careers that you want to be in. So those are your first steps, looking at what you're calling into 2019, taking any limiting beliefs you have around the possibility of having those, and starting to unblock those through the DRE, and also starting to really make yourself financially savvy. Some of the best resources, I love David Bach's books. I also think it's, funny, but Tony Robbins did put out that wonderful book on how to invest, and it's actually super legit. So that's great to listen to on audio. I like to YouTube stuff when I don't understand it. I ask my friends for financial advisors when I really don't understand things and I want to invest in stocks or I want to invest in property. And soon in Supported, I'm going to do a whole thing on how I manifested the retreat house in Mariposa. So stay tuned for that. We'll be letting you know. But today's trigger is all about that. Start to look at it. 2019 can be really what you want it to be. And we're so excited you're on this DRE 30-day challenge with us. And we're so stoked that you're using the formula and magnetism to truly start to call in your 2019 intentions, doing the heavy lifting before, so 2019 can already start out with some magnetism, because next month we're moving into up-leveling, which is going to be very important after this unblocking process. So enjoy. Today's guest, Mariana, we've known each other now for, I want to say 3 or 4 years. I hosted one of my very first workshops at her old space, her former space, which we'll hear about in this, her former company called Communal. And it was this great space downtown in the Arts District where she held really conscious and evolved workshops. I mean, she'd do workshops with kinfolk, and they were really special. And I was a private chef at the time who was kind of doing stuff that not a lot of people were doing. So I held a fermentation workshop at her space. And now we've also both kind of come out of our spiritual closet that I think we were both very afraid to do, because she has a lot of gifts. And now she is teaching meditation and mindfulness from a psychological perspective. She's also getting a degree in that right now. And she is so powerful. You are going to expand through this episode if you are a parent. You're going to expand through this episode if you're in corporate or anything out of wellness that you're like, well, how do I tap into this stuff? You're going to expand just as a person who's wanting to have more fluidity in their practices, that it doesn't consume their lives, how they can balance it a little bit more. So this episode is primarily focused on just questions surrounding mindfulness and meditation. And then at the end, we kind of get into her upbringing and background. We love you. We're so happy you're tuning in. You're going to love her. And I'm going to stop talking so you can experience it. Welcome to Supported. We're here with Mariana Orkenyi. You're a meditation teacher, mindfulness teacher. You work corporate, you work individual, you work with artists. I'm going to let you take it from there and tell everybody everything that you encompass, because it's so special.
Oh, thank you. I am a meditation teacher. I'm also going through now a program that covers all contemplative psychotherapy, which is Buddhism psychology combined with neuroscience and Western psychotherapy. Mm-hmm. I work one-on-one, teaching people how to establish a practice, what is happening when they're meditating, why are they meditating, why it's so hard, how they can find a way through it. And then I work at workshops, giving classes, talking panels,
all the things, all the good stuff.
Whatever.
And tell us about your gifts too, because I think that's important to know.
Well, I was born and raised in Brazil, and my parents are spiritual seekers. It was always very normal in the house to have this conversation, to know about it. What is it to be part of a bigger spiritual plane? Mm-hmm. I always joke that I'm like, now I'm a mom, and like the things they used to do when we were little, I'm like, how it was possible? Because they would come from work, they would change their clothes, they put all white because they had to wear all white, and they would just leave us with the neighbor with the door open, and they would go to the spiritual center where they still go to this day.
Wow.
Like 35 years later, where they give classes, it's a whole community. It's sort of a similar philosophy as Buddhism, but it's very big in Brazil. It's called spiritualism. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of classes and sessions and circles, gatherings. And they would just go like 3 nights a week or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
Wow.
But I feel like they always made it very clear to us that that was so important. That was the foundation. And it was just the way they could give their service back, and they keep in line and on track and having a place to go to. So we always had that discussion at home. And then when I was little and I started to manifest some, capacity to connect and hear and see things, I was always very well oriented, I guess, by what was going on. So it was never a fear for me when I happened to connect with spiritual guides or whoever was there. They would always talk to me, and I started to understand. And so that was since I was very little.
What would be some of your tips to the parent? Because I think all children are born with gifts. Every one of them can see, hear. They're all connected, and then we kind of fuck them up in society and lead them from their intuition. As somebody who was raised with parents who really allowed you to keep those gifts and harness them, what would be some of your tips for the parent who is, like I like to call it, raising a magnetic child, to allow them to unfold and let those gifts continue to be what they are?
I think in general, I think it's asking questions, is being curious. Even if it's regarding any little spark that you see that they are manifesting on terms of like connecting with the spiritual level. But if it's anything else, like even just to create that space where they feel safe, that they can say without being judged or looked weird or being like, oh no, shame. This is nothing. Forget about it. Or don't be scared. They start to get like fear of the dark and sleeping by themselves and all that. So it starts to really go there and create conversations and create space. And another thing is just you doing it. So Gala knows that I have the time that I have to go meditate and what that means. And it's my time and daddy time. Like we all have that in the house. So eventually this will start to grow on her, with all the neurons.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into some of the questions from everybody. How do you stay authentic while trying to build an online presence and brand? How do you stay present and authentic? You're doing a great job of it.
Well, it's a thing, right? Like the whole social media and online presence. Some days I want to be honest, I want to delete it and be like,
all the time.
I don't want to be doing this.
Even just for my subconscious, like what's going into it all the time.
And like I always indulge myself remembering how life used to be before. Like, oh my God.
Before a cell phone.
Yeah.
Like, we're the last generation that'll remember what it meant to be like not having a cell phone all the time.
Yes. So it is even for me, and I'm actually have it on my screensaver, like the word refrain, which is a big word in the Buddhism psychology too, like the work of refraining, and all the things that you just do on the autopilot.
Unconsciously.
Yeah. So, but to the question, I believe that however is your authentic self, or however is the quality of your presence, you can bring in a room, you can bring in your social media, you can bring it in all the places. They don't separate.
Except a lot of people do separate them from like looking at others or what to do, or I don't feel good enough. Yeah.
But that's when we are not aligned.
Totally.
Right? So if for you is to speak your truth, if it for you is to just be cultivating more aesthetic, and if for you is to raise questions, however it is, and it changes, right? I think it shouldn't be a thing that we have to be so focused, like strategy, but it really hearing how is that it's internal for you before it, But then there's also, somebody said, like, if you cannot fight the media, be the media.
Totally.
Too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so just align with how you are, and that let that be the result of it too.
The authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not try to conform. Yeah, I think for me, I had to learn that a long time ago, that authenticity is really what creates success. And especially like when people are like, how do I grow my following and my business and my brand? Be authentic
and
all
consistent.
the time. Consistent. Consistent's great. And what about you? What are your practices of how to stay present when there's just so much coming at us constantly? Like how to even be your authentic self when you're like, I should be like this, or I'm feeling FOMO to this, or here's that. Even billboards we're driving by or commercials, you know.
It's very hard, yeah. I was just writing about this today, actually. We have to be constantly checking the quality of our presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's our mind? How am I feeling right now? There are 4 foundations in mindfulness, and it starts with the body, mm-hmm. then goes to sensitive, and then goes to awareness, and then, you know, thoughts and emotions. But you have to start checking in. What am I feeling? Asking questions, like inquiring, like, is this real? Is this what is really the story here? How can I be constantly checking? Mm-hmm. And that helps you to come to a more centered place. Mm-hmm. Because if you're just in the autopilot response of all, you know, like, this is how I've been doing, this is how I always do things, or this is how I come at this, you know, in a certain way, you're going to get that result. Mm-hmm. You're going to continue staying that pattern of just, you know, keep your water. Yeah, exactly. But I would just say, just constantly checking how is the quality of your presence. Mm-hmm. And then in that sense is through asking questions, internal questions. Like,
love that. I think it's so important. I love that. How do you hold yourself accountable with your home meditation practice? I know, it's a hard one.
One thing with people that has to understand with meditation is that I really want to make my work about like educating people that it shouldn't be part of any to-do list. Mm-hmm. As in, it shouldn't create more pressure in your life, you know, more stress, because it defeats the whole purpose of it. We got the point that what is mindfulness in the big scenario, like it's in, you know, the Pinterest codes, it's, you know, be in the moment. Mm-hmm. But it's not only about that. Mm-hmm. There are other contexts of the practice that are not yet in the mainstream, mm-hmm. but they're coming, that has to do with insight, and that's why Vipassana is becoming more mm-hmm. recognized, which is insight meditation that brings the wisdom mm-hmm. that comes with the practice. And there's also a compassion component that is how you're relating with your experience. Mm-hmm. So if you're, you know, becoming a rigid person because you're not being able to meditate, or you want to be making sure you're building your practice, but it's from a place of very like, mm-hmm, you know, mm-hmm. it's going to be hard. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, the practice has to flow with your life. Mm-hmm. If it means 5 minutes, if it means from your car, if it means...
Uber. I love doing it in Ubers.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes I have to put earplugs mm-hmm. because I have a 3-year-old. Yeah. If it means before going to sleep, because during the day you couldn't, that's how you start to be able to integrate in your life without having to like, okay, now I'm going to set up a whole thing here to do, which is great. But sometimes we don't have that, mm-hmm. you know, we don't have the crystals and the incenses and the 30 minutes that mm-hmm. we want. So 5 minutes is good. Mm-hmm. And just know that it has to be fluid, mm-hmm. you know, it will be changing, life changes. It's always impermanent. So.
Boy, is that the truth. Thank you. I think that was such a good answer to it. How do you build a business and make the transition away from a 9-to-5? I know, it's a big one. For manifestation, it's a big question. But for you, for somebody who is approaching, like that seems so vast and so against what they've been raised to think is normal, that they can achieve what they want, that they can make that transition. What would be your mindful approach to starting to get prepared for that?
I mean, I'm transitioning this, like I'm going through it. So I really don't have all the answers, but I would say definitely one thing is do not identify yourself as that's who you are. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, when you, especially if you're going to your own business, like, I don't know, right? Like you can always like think this is all I am. And if it goes really well, amazing. If it goes maybe not so well in the
Because you
beginning.
had a business before this, which was in alignment,
Yes.
but it wasn't filling your heart with joy.
Yeah, I wanted to be able to have more flexibility even in that was already flexible and not have to be in the physical space constantly.
Absolutely.
So I am very hard and critical with myself, very perfectionist. I'm, Libra. It has
Aquarius.
To be perfect. Yeah.
What are you, Libra, Aquarius?
And Leo.
And then generator in human design?
A manifestation generator.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for me to get my feet out of the door because it was never right, right? And I really, the past years or so, it's just like, no, let's go.
There were moments where you're like, oh, so many people are doing things. What about me is different? That's a really important thing for people to understand. Everything about you is different. So if you want to talk on that, any of that kind of stuff
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I was very insecure about my accent, not being able to communicate. And now, I happen to have to be communicating all the time. I didn't anticipate that was going to be part of what I'm doing right now. So I have to overcome because I have to speak in public now.
And she's speaking at like huge galleries across the nation, like MoMA, like you're at all of these incredible places teaching mindfulness.
Yeah, and I have to just like suck it up and go and do it, and the whole fear that I would hide myself behind of like, oh, like with the accent and if people would understand me and if I'm saying it correctly, I had to just like really let it drop, like and do it. So it's been a process for me to just go with it and then figure it out as I go. And I would hear people saying that and I wouldn't even understand because I'm like, what do you mean? But I have to have it right. I have to have, like, the website has to be right. The thing has to be right. But no, you just go. And then as you go, you will tweak and you will change and evolve and you find what is right and what is working, what is not. And I think, again, like what I said, don't think that that's all you are.
Don't identify yourself with what you're doing.
It's just part of your story.
It really
but
is.
But not the whole picture.
I agree.
So it has to have some distance too.
How was it making this transition? Because you went from like literally giving birth, really nurturing her to two, and then stepping and being like, I'm going to be a mom and have a business. Because I know a lot of people struggle with that. A, how do I be mindful as a parent? B, how do I start a company, a mindfulness company as a parent? What would you say to that person who's in that space of trying to do both of those?
I was just talking about this yesterday too, about balancing, right? Like how we believe that we need to keep all these plates up in the air and I'm going to be a parent now and I'm going to be now an entrepreneur and then I'm going to be now a partner and a friend. And I think we're failing on that. I think we should really start to questioning and challenging this concept of I see it happen now that I became a parent, like how it's impossible. In this phase of my life, it's impossible. Last week I couldn't even put my nose in the yoga studio or even do it at my house because she got sick. And then this week is already in the middle and I didn't do anything yet, So it's going to be I'm always going to lose this battle.
Absolutely.
So we need to start actually being more in the flow of what is happening and what is possible. So in this phase of my life, this is possible and this is not. And this is what I'm standing and be very communicate with my partner, for example. I have to, and for people that are becoming new parents, it's very important to say, like, at the end of the day, when you're done with that time, this is my time right now. I cannot give it to anybody else. Can you understand that? Is it possible? Can I get back to you on this tomorrow? Or acknowledge, I'm here, but I just really need some time right now. Or, all of those things are just so much more honest than just trying to do it all and then keep it all. And again, go back to the scope of mindfulness that is integrating more compassion to, how is the relationship to our experience in the present moment? Like how we are navigating all this instead of trying to balance and putting more pressure on us. how we can flow more. It's more about fluidity and acceptance and what is possible in honesty, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. The biggest illusion out there is that there's a sense of balance. Also, think about, we're all made up of 80% of water. So it means our emotional states, everything about us is constantly fluid and changing where we are at every moment.
And especially women. I mean, Erica, we've been talking so much about like how throughout the month we keep changing, right? Like,
yeah.
And
our hormones,
we need to remember that, like, how this also impact us. Like before, I wouldn't even think about it. And no wonder, like the days before my period, I can't do it really much that requires like mental, like complexity, you know, and that's okay.
Totally okay.
So it's just so much about intimacy of yourself with yourself. It's just really getting closer and closer to yourself, like all of this, because then you start to reflect in your business, in your life with your close ones, with your friends. You're just so much more there with you. So then when you're with them or where you are, you're just all there.
You're just totally present.
Yeah.
I love that. How do you maintain your mindful state around others who just aren't there yet, who just aren't conscious yet?
You just pay attention, you create the space. You notice how maybe you can get impatient because it's not in their time yet, and see how parts of you want to maybe fix or change something. I get a lot of people that come and wants to have their partners to start to do things, and that doesn't work.
I say the same thing. Nope, they have to want to come on their own for the work.
It's just really about, like, with Topher, it was really just, he just started doing because it was just like, he saw, you know.
It's part of the family.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, okay, like, this sounds, you know, like, so you just really stay in your track. And then when people around you are not, I don't like the word very mindful, but like maybe, you know, maybe not so awake or aware, you just stay fully on your ground, like paying very much attention to what you're feeling and how you're listening and what you're listening. We are always in a conversation, or when we are interacting with people, we're always like already formulating our answer and what we think, right? Coming from our own inner reality. But it's important to let that person talk and just be very much in your space. That's the same approach I do for when people ask me about how you protect yourself. Being very much in your body, in your ground. Whenever I go to a place that I feel the energy is weird, people are weird, I just immediately pay attention to my body and to how I'm feeling. Like I go back very much to my center. Instead of like out, like I go in and just be more quiet, just more listening.
I agree. Yeah, mine's always to just try to get into my heart and just hold space for them. Like wherever they are, you know, it's fine. And I agree. I think the theme that you're saying overall to most people who are tuning into all of the questions is like, get back to yourself. Like, get back to yourself and being present with yourself and being fluid with what that looks like.
Yeah, fluidity is a very big, like flow is a big word for me in the practice. Because then you have more freedom, you have more possibilities, you can choose. When we're so rigid, there's no options, there's no possibilities.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It's a block in itself. How do you find the courage to speak your inner truth without worrying what others will think?
It's been a practice. I start to notice how my teachers are wonderful, so awake and aware and just have so much wisdom and love and compassion, but at the same time, so much boundary. And it's a common thing with all of it, like with all of them. And I know this intuitively, even when I was little, even going to the spiritual center with those teachers. And I mean, all the lineages, they have that, you know? So I start putting attention on how that behavior was like so clear, you know? You're someone that has that very well, like very loving, very caring, very compassionate, very present, but very clear in your boundaries. So that's how I practice too. So be honest, just being very honest, very clear with a very nice response. I always saying like sometimes I have to just be honest with Topher and be like, you know, today that's not my, I really need that space. I will get back to you on something that you need, or we'll do that another time. Even with Gala, I tell her like, today I'm not having a good day. Mom is not really feeling well. So we need to have some patience, you know, like we need to be more calm and gentle. Like I'm just trying to
communicate,
and
be honest,
be clear.
It's amazing. And so many parents, I think, are so afraid of that because they're so afraid of what that's creating in the child. However, it's really creating what? A sense of confidence, clarity, communication, and boundaries. Those are like the top things you can
because I mean, we're not machines. We have feelings. And she even tells Daddy, Mom is not feeling so well today, okay? So, like, it's because that's how it is. Like, there are days then when she's not feeling so well, then I can tell her, oh, remember when I wasn't feeling so well? So I took care of it, and today I'm better. You know, it's so you can create much more space for your conversations and to be honest with them to what is it to be a human, you know, like all the textures, all the layers.
I love that. Oh, that's so important. Thank you for saying that. It's so, so important. What is the difference between meditation and hypnosis? Does the subconscious change during meditation?
Yeah, well, hypnosis goes into your subconscious, and meditation, if you're doing a meditation technique that is more like a Buddhism meditation related, you're really just experiencing what is happening right now. If you're doing a mantra-based meditation, for example, you're really attuning to what we call a superconscious mind, like you're really like going into a higher state. But that would be the main difference. Like in hypnosis, you go to a more subconscious state, and you don't.
Yeah, like hypnosis and Vedic are basically the same. You go to the same place essentially.
Yeah.
That's exactly, what you're, and I love the, like, expanding on the Buddhist practice of meditation is very, very important, I think, in tandem with either whatever practice you're doing, because it's teaching you a true sense of presence, where the other ones you can, like, fly off the rails.
I really love mantra-based meditation because it feels like it gives me, like, that reset, renew, like I can rest and feel like, oh, wow. But the practice of just being real to what is happening right now, and cultivating that floor and that field, that ground for you to just be there, it's what it is.
And it's what we need in the conscious.
Yeah.
Like all of us are, not all of us, but a lot of us are having such a hard time being present.
I mean, if you don't do that, how you can do any of other work, you know? Because like, how can you face yourself? You need to be there first, creating that space. And so then manipulate whatever, you want later. And
exactly. Yeah. It's such a good way to look at that. It's such a good way to decipher that one is so important for the other. It's so important for the other.
I have to do both.
Me too.
Yeah, I do like both, and they kind of complement each other, and it's great.
Yeah, even when I'm driving now, because I obviously practice Vedic, and I do for people who are even curious about that, I don't even need to listen to something, they call it induction, is what takes you into that subconscious state. When I'm in Vedic, I'll just, right at the very end of it, I'll just kind of do all my little reprogramming neuroscience work at the end, because I'm already in that state of alpha or theta. But what I'm doing to complement in the meantime in my daily life, sitting here working, even when I'm driving, I go into the present moment. I'm like, my hands are on the wheel. I'm in my heart. This is what I'm feeling. I'm going to feel my feelings all of the way. And like, this is where I am. It's just really bringing in to the present in order to try to create that neuroplasticity that we should be doing that in our conscious state all of the time. I love that. So thank you for connecting the two and deciphering.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It might be too much for people, right? You know, but if they were to start with anything, I would definitely suggest for them to start with a practice where they get intimate with themselves first. Really just basic, you know, if it's the breath, if it's a part of their body, if it's then evolved to be a sensation and how they're relating with their thoughts and their emotions. But definitely is the ground that you wanted to start cultivating. Because once that intimacy is established, then you start to get
do all the things.
Exactly.
And what you're saying right now is essentially kind of connecting to what you were saying before. That's how you get back to yourself. That's how you have that space to be fluid.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes at the end of my practice, I ask people just to put their hands in their heart. And no kidding, some won't even do it. And some will do like this.
Because it feels so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like it's really hard, you know, to be here. We are not used to it. It's not something we've been doing. We're not taught this, you know. So think of it's like a getting, you know, intimate when you're in like a beginning, you know, of a relationship. You're in that thing again, like, but with yourself. Sort of like in that phase of like, oh, let me get to know this.
Oh, I think that's so great. Is it common when meditating for your body to suck you in so deep that it's difficult to come back to reality?
Shouldn't be. Then maybe in this case, you're probably doing something different than what is a meditation practice. Maybe it's like a different sort
Channeling.
of like, different sort of like, if that is the case, when you start to feel like you're out of your body, then you can do things like you can start, you know, you can bring your attention back to maybe a place in your body that feels easy, like maybe your hands, and start like getting back to the sensation, because it's not really about getting out of our body. It's really about being in the body. We're not trying to like, you know, cut that off. We are trying to just really dropping in more and more. So you can do things throughout the practice if you feel like you're getting that sensation. Sometimes I feel like too that I might even like, you know, get so light that you can float. Just pay attention back to the nostrils, if it's through maybe the belly or the chest or in the nostrils, or hands, legs,
feet to ground you.
Start to get back to the body.
What would you say if they were practicing a mantra state, or like when people get to that place, that's when they can start to play with the astral plane and astral travel, and it's just a whole nother thing. It's not mindfulness meditation.
It's not mindfulness meditation. I would say like if that's the experience they're trying to have, it's awesome too. Like it's totally fine, but it's not like what mindfulness meditation is, because you're not trying to get out of the body. Feeling.
It's the opposite. Yeah, I love that. How can I be more mindful in something like a Wall Street job or a high-profile lawyer, like more corporate, more demanding, less able to touch in with yourself throughout the day, potentially? Yeah.
Well, I believe we also tend to compartmentalize, right? Like how there's the spiritual people, and then there is the analytical people, and there's the alpha.
The like, creatives. The everything.
And it's another thing that we should start just challenging and drop it. We are all spiritual people.
Yeah, labels. It's all bullshit.
We are all like a person that is a lawyer and it's in Wall Street can be very connected with themselves. It's a little more challenging, maybe because the environment they're in and the people that surround them, but that does not impede them to have their own little practice, which is maybe go to the bathroom and do 5 grounding breaths, like 3 deep inhales and exhales, or, you know, journal or listen to whatever inspire, like however it is, go for a walk. That could help them to cultivate that ground. I believe that it's not something that we, just because we are doing this work or just the creatives feel like it, are more open to it, the other people are out of the question, you know. And I find I meet so many people that are they come from these professions, and they're so genuine and really like looking for, like they're so hungry for it, and they are just the same, you know, it's all the same. We're all very spiritual. It's just a matter of cultivating.
We're all creative. Everyone has creative
Everybody
energy.
has creative energy, exactly.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's the real message is you don't need to put yourself in any box. You have you have all of the things inside of you.
You can be in your office with your suit and take your shoes off and do like a 5 minutes breathing practice, you know?
Yeah.
It's just because we go with the flow of how things
society says things are, or how they should look. How can someone transition from being a student to being a teacher? For instance, when do they feel like they've learned enough, been the apprentice enough, and taken enough training to be legitimate? I think this is what we touched on earlier, but you can go a lot deeper in this.
I don't think I'm ever going to stop being a student.
Yeah.
I think that's why you become a teacher, because you want to learn so much of that then you just like can immerse yourself in that sort of area of knowledge. I don't want to stop being ever a student. I came to this life to be a student.
I agree.
But I am choosing to actually just share.
Share is a perfect word, because at the end of the day, who's really a teacher? I mean, like even if you're highly educated, PhD and all of that, and I'm not challenging somebody's experience in their journey, but at the end of the day, none of us know everything. We're sharing the knowledge that we've absorbed.
I mean, and the teachers that we find are always going to be, maybe it's right for me, maybe it's not for you. It's always going to be a matter of energy, of how they are interpreting the teachings. For me, I'm someone that I'm really hungry for the source, so I always try to go like as close as I can to the source of the teachings, and that what I would recommend, but maybe it's not for everybody too. And the transition that happens, I feel like when you just become so comfortable in that, and you are just so hungry to share, and they will evolve too. Like we were saying in the beginning, you know, you're not gonna get it right in the beginning. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna try, and you're going to get better at it. And my teachers that are now teaching for over 40 years, I mean, I look at them, I'm like, oh my God, you know, like they have so many stories to share. They have so much experience because they are doing for so many years. But that just gives me more hungry to, I guess you call the expanders, right?
Yeah.
So it just give me more material to work with it, you know?
And that we're all maturing over time. We're just maturing. Like, even if you start sharing now, if you feel ready, you're going to be so much more matured and versed in what you're sharing. But I think what is very important is for people to not stop studying.
I
agree. Like life and material.
Yeah, like people think that, okay, that's it. I know it all about this. Like, I study every single day. Like at night when she goes to bed, I don't watch TV show or I relax. I go to study. Like literally, like, you know, color pencils, and like I study because that's what I'm doing right now, and this is the phase of my life where I am right now. And that's what is probably what happens to be the consequence to what I'm doing, to be teaching. But the first thing before teaching is studying.
Absolutely.
You know, like so what comes first.
Absolutely. So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have, and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code, EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode. How often do you feel out of alignment, and how do you deal with it when you are? Which we kind of touched on.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Moment to moment. Yeah. That's how I am.
It happens constantly, and it just happens because I forget. I resist. If I'm really tired, I do this thing like sometimes I'm really tired, stressed. I really don't want to take care of a baby right now. I really just want to lay down on the couch or have a good meal or have a warm tea. When I resist that so much, that's what makes me out of alignment. Because I spend so much time investing on this idea of what I want to be doing, and I'm not able to do it. So then what I try and do, and lately been doing, is just, okay, yes, I'm really tired right now. I really want a cup of tea. It's not possible. I have to take care of this little person. We have to get through bedtime, and that's it. Again, dropping into the body, being very intimate to what's happening, checking what am I telling myself, what does that feel, how does that feel in my body. I always share, Brené Brown has this thing where she translates so well all these teachings in like a very practical way, but the thing about like how she says, the story I'm telling myself.
And it's the future too, it's not even present.
Yeah, what is going on here? So that's what I have to just check. Like, oh, okay. Oh, I see. Oh, look how far I went with this one, or look where I'm clinging now. Or like, this is what I'm holding on to. Oh, I see. So you just notice, you become aware of it. You like, okay, how can I get back? How can I remember? And then in the minute that you did that, you notice that, already lose that power. You're already like, you're already not there anymore so much.
Totally.
So you already came back to what life is happening, which is right now,
Absolutely.
Not there nor here.
Yeah, not totally. Because a story we're telling ourselves is nothing that's really happening in the moment if it's not aligning.
Yeah.
So I love that. It's a really great way, a quick way that anybody can really check in, truly.
Yeah.
How do you balance the feminine and the masculine in business?
In business?
I think you're pretty big balance between the two, like the masculine of going out and doing and having to be on and like get things done, and then the feminine of really coming back into receiving, being present, being a mother. Like for you, how do you dance between those?
Yeah, I guess my background is in arts and cultural projects, so always probably had to develop more on masculine side, like very much like get things done, production, projects. But I guess my maternal side really flourished, and it's something that I probably hid it before, and that's why I always like, okay, maybe this eventually, but I never really wanted to bring to the forefront until I got pregnant, and then I was like, okay, I get it. It became clear. So I guess that's what I'm bringing when I am combining both, the masculinity of like have things done, which I think is also very feminine because we do so much, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing it both balanced.
I think it's also so much of your chart is masculine and feminine. You're naturally you're able to dance between the two. But I do remember when you had Communal that you were a lot more in your masculine, like you're saying, just like you felt you had to.
Yeah.
I think especially like immigrating to different countries, feeling like you have to be a hard worker and you have to show up 10 times better than whoever else is here. I mean, there was a lot of that. And then you did like soften deeply after having a baby. Yeah. And you tapped in way deeper, I think, too.
Yeah, so that's...
Yeah,
see, I
have a baby. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, but you do dance really fluidly between them now. I see.
Probably something that I'm learning. Still in the process.
I love that. Do you think silent meditation is a necessary part of spiritual awakening?
Silent meditation for spiritual awakening. I guess it's the number one tool.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I really think it's everything.
Yeah.
Whatever practice you're doing.
Because what is a spiritual awakening, right? Like we're talking about remembering who we are.
And that's all it is.
And the meaning of mindfulness with the big M, we say, which is like because it became such a big word, right? That it's so everything. So mindfulness with the big M means filled. So it's like really the field where we get to cultivate so much that has to do with the practice. And we say that mindfulness with the little m, it means sati in Pali, which is the word, the text of the Buddha teachings, means awareness to remembering. And Sharon Salzberg, which is a teacher that I really love, she says remember it, and what is it?
That's really
it's our
amazing.
True nature. It's who we are.
The authentic self.
Yeah, it's like, I guess, so if you're talking about awakening and, awakening, what is this awakening? It's just coming back to remember who we truly are, that we are, beyond just the form. I definitely think that is the number one tool that will help us set
Daily,
the foundation to then you go and cultivate that in different ways. But if you have a daily practice where you are checking in to remember who you are, then you are awakening. Slowly, gradually awakening.
Awakening to who you are, to remembering who you are. Oh, that's so beautiful. It's so true. It's so true. And so in alignment with manifestation, because pure magnetism is being whole in who you are, your authentic self. So it's a great approach to, remembering what that is, and then beginning to mindfully live that way throughout the day and show up that way. So it's so, so beautiful. How do you handle when you feel that a career upgrade is in order, but you don't know how to proceed? So a really big opportunity is coming, but you're not quite sure what the next step is in a mindful way. When everything's like, I feel so ungrounded and out of control.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure if I have the answer to. Like, I guess I'm just navigating it. Whenever something comes and it's like, holy shit, how I'm going to do this. You just feel the feeling of the anxiety that might come. You I normally let be there for a while, and then you start to process it. Okay, what do I need to make this happen? What does it entail? Is this in line to what I am doing here? And then you go through the, I guess, inquiry process. That's how I've been doing. But I'm not, again, this one too, I might not have the answer to.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing.
But yeah, I guess you just sort of go through, because we can relate this with stress. Stress has 4 phases. And the first phase is the appraisal phase, which is when we face the situation. And if you feel like we are smaller than the challenge, that's when the stress cycle starts to happen. So that's why it's so important in that appraisal phase for us to be like, okay, this is this. How am I perceiving this? What are my tools to deal with this? So then you don't go to the reactivity, cycle mode of it. That's why we get so overwhelmed and get so much in the stress cycle, because of this very fundamental first phase of it, which is the they call it the appraisal phase. So I would say pay much attention to this beginning, to then not getting to that ongoing cycle. The wheel.
Yeah, I love that. We have a whole workshop coming out on this, not from a mindful approach, but the energetics of what's actually at play.
On stress?
Well, no, on upgrading. When a really big upgrade's coming, and how we're doing this in December, we're launching it called Up Leveling, of just like, everything that appears to be happening isn't really the way it works. And so I love what you're saying. It's a really great perspective when you're in that, oh shit.
I can send you the whole it's all based on a study. It's from my teacher, which is like the neuroscience. Yeah, it's
amazing.
Because then he explains all the hormones, like releasing all the phases. And
I love that. Yeah, because when you can get over that, or not over it, but above it mentally, like you can see, because that's all that's happening, right? It's our brain that's triggering all of the emotions in our body.
Yeah, it's just us perceiving us smaller or not capable or not equipped to deal with what it is. Yeah. And that can happen with like
going to a social event.
Yeah, like a little thing or like a level, in your career. Yeah.
Oh, it's so true. And at the end of the day, it really comes back to hitting back to who you are. You're authentic. Like, how did I handle this in the past? I got through it.
Exactly.
You started a whole company literally out of thin air, Communal, and then same thing of launching this. It seemed scarier because it was a new terrain.
Oh my God, so scary. But then again, you have to keep moving.
Keep moving.
And not doing how you've been doing, right?
And the universe will never, ever send you something you can't handle.
Right.
Ever. A gift, a bad thing. Well, bad things, not bad things, are invitations to up level. So that's great. How do you stay encouraged when you are passing through a tough time, like saving up to leave a job you hate?
How you stay courageous?
How do you stay encouraged, or how do you stay on track with it instead of just throwing the towel in? It's too big, it's too much. How do you stay mindful?
In this question, I might have to kind of lean into something that is just so much part of my nature and probably the foundation for my parents. But in that case, I really rely to fate.
Me too.
There is a point in life that you just have to you're doing everything that you're doing. There's so much you can do, and you have to surrender or trust. And sometimes in my practice, when I'm feeling really out of control or not needing that sort of support, maybe I will repeat to myself, just hold me, hold me, I
love that. I even call it, I'm like you, I mean, we're so spiritual, but I'll be like, Archangel Michael, put your wings around me right now.
Just hold me, I don't know everything. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing all the time.
And you didn't ask for all of this.
Exactly.
You're on it and you're accepting, but it's you didn't ask for your gifts. You didn't ask to do. I mean, you did have a contract before coming through, but as a human, it's hard.
And there are going to be decisions that, you're not going to be always so intuitive about it that you need to do it. It's going to be much more pragmatic, that you're going to have to be assume that. I always say something, if it applies to one thing in our life, all this, it applies to everything.
Agreed.
So it doesn't work just with the nice thing or the things that are flowing. It applies to the things that are not working too. So we need to trust, because if we trust the things that are working, the things that aren't working, they're going to have to apply too. It's the same science, you know?
Absolutely.
So you're just going to have to just trust.
Yeah, that's how you develop trust. Yeah. That's how you develop faith. I love that. How do you become a meditation teacher? What is a formal training or another way to do it? How do you become that?
Well, I had a practice for my whole life, since I was very little, on and off, but it's always there. Even towards my crazy 20s in Europe, I always had my altar, my little thing. And it just was always a thing that happened in my life. So my friends would come to me for advices, help, support. If you ask any of my friends from my teens or my 20s, they if you tell them I'm a meditation teacher, they'll be like, oh,
of course she is, yeah. Same with me when I was always the witchy friend doing circles and shit back then.
Yeah, it's just that's very how she was, and although I was always resisting it, like to be able, like, because it was a thing that in my family, it was just a thing that they would do for their, for us, for our family, for them, and for the community, but never a work. Like, but in the age we are right now, we need people in the field. We need people doing work with quality, right? Like,
and less ego.
Yeah. So what happened? I became pregnant, and when I became pregnant, it became really clear to me that that was the force that I need. I always had a very driven base idea of like service. Like my work had to be some sort of service. That's why I went to the arts and cultural field, and that's how I wanted to give my service, my time, my work for a community through arts and cultural projects. And that's what I did it for like 10 years. Then when I became pregnant, and then when I came to LA specifically, it got really hard. I hit really a weird bottom for me.
Totally,
which was a very new thing. I didn't know I had that bottom. Didn't even know how to dance with that. So I had to be really clear in my practice, became really consistent with it. And that's what really helped me to be like, okay.
To know who you are in this like really ungrounded time.
Yeah. In a very hard time, with a time that I had zero answers. Everything seemed to be a door closed, a no, delayed. And it was so weird. I used to tell Toker, I'm like, I don't understand. Everything always flows so well, everything, and it's just so hard, it's so heavy. And I knew I had to stay. I couldn't leave. And I was already married. So everything happened really weird. I was already married, I couldn't leave. Like, I had to be here. Like, I was stuck. The only way through it was through my practice. That's the way I found it, So I became pregnant. And when I became pregnant, it just became really, like, that whole force came back, like, really strong.
And your power.
Yeah. And it just became really clear to me. That's the service that I've been trying to give before. So I went to study. Like, how to actually teach it. Not only like, have the practice, but like to really, and then to everybody that is interested, I would just repeat myself, but go closer to the source as possible.
Because you started at UCLA.
I studied with Ananda, the Spanxolite, it's up north, which is all based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, which is the first yogi that came to the Western in the 1920s, and brought meditation and yoga. And then now I'm studying with the first lineage of all the Buddhism teachers that came bringing this in the 70s, 80s. So I would just say go closer as possible to the source, to not get things washed, but get, so then you can get the information and then you use it, interpret it in your own way.
Translate it, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm going to make you serve as an expander for a moment, but also you just found out recently through astrocartography that you have your Pluto or Saturn line here.
Right here.
Which think of Saturn return, they threw, I love this because from a manifestation perspective, you were thrown, and I'm going to have you talk about how you met Topher because I think it's very expansive, but you were literally thrown in a matter of months onto your Saturn line and being like, oh shit, this is so uncomfortable, literally a rock bottom, because it was the only place you were going to listen loud enough and come into your power to do this work. You would have, you would have in Spain, even in Mexico, back in Brazil, you had such a flow that's what is so important for people who have these things happening, these earthquakes, these rock bottoms. You're literally being called to up level. They're the biggest gifts on the planet. So I just think that's such a funny little thing to take a note of through a manifestation perspective. But also, can you serve as an expander for people how you and Topher met, which is such like a Leo Aries story.
Yeah.
But it's so expansive. Yeah. Like love can come from anywhere, literally anywhere.
I had a long relationship before we, broke up, and I was living in Barcelona. I then decided to leave go back to Brazil because I needed to create space. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to leave that relationship. It was just hard for us to,
break apart.
Yeah.
Everyone's been in that thing.
Yeah. So I then left and went to Brazil and start to really nurture being at home with my parents and stayed there for a while. Then eventually got a job at a museum, was working there, really focusing on myself, the whole ordeal, like really working on it, being very taking care of my whole thing. I always danced and going, doing my whole rituals, my meditations, my thing. And I remember I did a thing for 30 days.
Well, Kundalini.
Yes.
You were practicing Kundalini.
And all September, because I was starting to sort of like question to where I would go next. Mm-hmm. And New York was an option, or if I would go back to Europe. And I was still like not clear with it. I didn't know. So I did it for 30 days, asking like, just very like, send me a sign. I'm here, show me. On September 29, Topher, my husband now, appeared in the museum where I used to work. He just came randomly with a common friend. They went to have a coffee and I was there. And then my friend said, oh, I'm here with this artist from the United States. He's doing an exhibition in the museum next door. Do you want to have a coffee? So I came out and from that day on, we are together.
Well, tell us too the time frame from the moment you met to when you were married and living in Los Angeles.
I say if Gala tells me this, I'm like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
It's insane. So that was the end of September. So that the 29th of September, and then he was going to be in Brazil for a little bit because of that show that he was doing. He said to me, I'm coming back in December to see you. And I'm like, no, let's maybe take it slow. He's like, no. I'm coming back in September, in December to see you. And I'm like, oh my God. And I just kind of went with the flow of it, not really much thinking about it. It was so surreal now to think of it, how I had to actually be brought over here, literally. Mm-hmm. And then he went back. We spent a whole month there again in December, January. I came in February and he proposed.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I accepted.
Yeah.
And then he proposed on a Monday and we were married on a Thursday. Mm-hmm. Because we had to start our whole green card process. Yeah, with things, few months I was already married.
And Topher says, when you know, you know.
Yeah, he said, he really knew from the beginning. I don't know what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. I was just going with the flow. Again, I have this thing where I'm I trust. Mm-hmm. And I have to really know myself to know to the point that I'm this is the decision that I'm making. Mm-hmm. And I'm not as scared of making mistakes.
Me neither, yeah.
And if I had to I go back, I would, but I go with it, so that's my nature of it.
And I love the way you tell that story too, because the pattern that you explained was, you had a breakup, you had a little bit of an earthquake, it just wasn't working and you knew you couldn't stay together because it was going to continue. You went back home, you got back to yourself. It's the mindfulness practice. Then you put everything into yourself, knowing how to just nurture and give yourself everything you need. And then
he appeared really on the last day of the thing.
And you were in the flow, you were mindful.
Yeah.
During that experience.
You
were open and present.
And here we are. It's going to be 9 years.
Wow. And a baby. And Jose,
yeah.
The puppy.
The dog. Yeah.
And then I want you to serve as an expander as well. What's your cultural background? I know it's from Brazil, but it's you didn't grow up in this glamorous lifestyle where you could afford to go to Mexico and Spain on the whim, and you worked your ass off. So tell people that who are listening and they're she must come from a lot of money and privilege or these things.
No.
Yeah.
No, I grew up in Brazil, in São Paulo. My mom was a social worker. Sorry. my dad is a big spender for me because he used to work at a bank and hated. And when we were about 10, I was 10, my brother was 6 or so, or 12 or so, he said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. And he wanted to work with nature.
He's Pisces?
He's a Scorpio.
Scorpio. Mom's Pisces.
My mom is Scorpio too.
Oh, Scorpio. Wow.
And my brother's a Pisces.
Wow.
And my dad said, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, that's it. And he wanted to work with nature, and he wanted to be a landscape designer to create gardens. And he said, that's it. I'm walking away. He quit the job. I remember the day my mom got all his suits and his ties, put it all in a bag to give it to Goodwill. Like, I remember that day.
Beautiful.
Like, I remember him getting one gardener and starting his company and doing. And now, you know, they have a full-on, I mean, it's been 20 years or so, but like they have, that's what he'd been doing, yeah, like, and creating gardens and creating the life that he wanted. So I saw that happening in front of my eyes, and I always wanted to travel the world and go around and see things. So I was, you know, raised there until I was around 21. I finished college. Like, I just had that agreement with them. I had to finish college. I finished college. The day after I present my thesis, I moved.
Wow.
Like, I didn't even stay for the party.
How did you manifest the move?
I met this, I was going to go to Europe. But then the last year of my college, I met that boyfriend.
Wow.
So he was from Mexico. Yeah. And he was a musician. Like, he would travel the world.
His parents like did Kundalini.
The parents
stuff,
were
right?
yoga teachers and spiritual teachers. And it was just like the amazing bridge opening up to me, like that whole possibility. So then I moved to Mexico City. I lived there for like 3 years or so. Like, it was amazing. Like, I love Mexico so much. I love Mexico City so much. Like, that's one of the beginning of meeting, like, getting to know so much of myself too. I learned so much there. I did a lot of trainings. Like, I didn't even know they would sign up for shamans workshop and teachers and trainings, because they were all in this too. Like, and I learned so much. Then I wanted to study and take a master's in Barcelona, and then we moved there. I studied arts and cultural management, and those are my years that I say, like, those are my, like, cultural years, like my years of, like, just
figuring
savoring life,
yeah.
You know, being in Europe. And I spent 3 years there and just working and saving.
Yeah.
And also, what is the word? You know, compromising.
Yeah.
I don't have a big saving account. You know, like, this for me was later on. Like, I had to compromise. My friends were building careers. I was traveling. That was what I wanted. You know,
chose.
My friends probably have bigger communities of friends. I have communities of friends in different places, you know, and start to understand what were the things that were important to me, and how was my narrative, my story, how that would unfold. And then I met Tova and came here. And now I'm like thinking, where is next?
Where's next? Yeah, that's the big question.
Because I want Gala to also experience a little bit of
the world and different cultures.
It gives us much perspective on how we live too.
Absolutely. And connect and understand that we're all just one human family.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
And when we get out of the bubble.
Yeah.
What I want you to do for anybody, I'm going to give you kind of like the different ones, because it's so important. I have clients who are in Spain. I have clients who are in Mexico and Latin America in general. And I have clients that are in Brazil. So I want you to tell each of them something different to help expand them. Okay. First, starting with Spain, I noticed with my clients, my Spanish clients, that because of the recession, it really hurt their ability to dream in some cases.
So should I start translating it?
You're going to speak Spanish to them, basically. But essentially, I want you to serve as an expander for anybody in Spain who was really hit by that recession that made them go, oh my God, I don't know if I can manifest with the economy and the yada yada and education and, you know, all of that. What would you say to that person to go follow their dreams? So say that in Spanish.
Hola a todos que escuchan a Lacy y están integrados con el trabajo que ella hace, que es estar muy íntimo con lo que eres, con tu ser más auténtico, y que a pesar de todas las condiciones que hay, de falta de trabajo, de empleo, de dinero, de lo que dice la sociedad, de lo que deberías hacer, de lo que deberías estar haciendo, es posible seguir tu camino como sea, y que cuando empieces, eso se va a aflorar y eso se va a desarrollar y vas a poder empezar a entender cómo puedes soportar a ti mismo en este proceso, y confiar mucho en ti, que puedes seguir, y que no es lo que dice afuera lo que realmente determina lo que tienes adentro y lo que puedes llevar a cabo.
I understood about 75% of it, and you did really
good.
well. Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
one I won't understand at all, but I want you, because I have, you know, a couple of clients in Portugal, and obviously I
have people in Portugal that wrote me to, that I think
worked with and
yeah,
stuff.
work with their stuff, yeah.
And obviously Brazil will kill two birds with one stone. Like I see with my Portuguese clients that they're like, even in, you know, like Porto or, you know, especially Lisbon, this is kind of around, but very limited. And a lot of their feelings are like, I feel different, I feel weird, like if I'm spiritual and, you know, into different communities, which I know isn't, I'm totally generalizing, but I want you to expand them, you know, like both Brazilian and Portuguese, Brazilian and, you know, Portugal. Like, go follow your dreams. You can do it. You've experienced those areas, and you've done it.
Oi, todo mundo do Brasil, de Portugal, ou de onde seja que entenda português. Eu conheço a Lacy há muito tempo também, e estou nesse trabalho de fazer educação sobre a meditação e a mindfulness. E dizer para vocês que os rótulos, a maneira como a sociedade nos coloca em caixinhas, é uma ideia que a gente tem que continuar sempre questionar, saber que o que a gente tem dentro é realmente a coisa mais importante para a gente ter essa força para poder seguir à frente, questionando esses rótulos, questionando as coisas que a gente põe na nossa cabeça. Eu estou fazendo, é uma prática diária, e é muito liberador. A gente tem mais possibilidades, mais escolhas, e levantar essa ideia do nosso subconsciente, saber que a gente é capaz, que a gente pode continuar esse trabalho desde um lugar muito mais autêntico, muito mais verdadeiro, sem ter que ficar encaixando em como a sociedade nos diz, enfim, do que a gente pensa que deve ser feito, apesar das condições afora. Eu sei que o Brasil agora está passando por um momento muito difícil, mas cada vez mais a gente precisa que a gente seja mais honesto, mais sincero com o que a gente quer, com o que a gente quer trabalhar, e ir adiante, que seja como for, e com flexibilidade, com fluidez, seguir esse caminho. Obrigada.
Thank you. I have two more questions, and then I swear to God we'll wrap this.
In Portuguese too?
No. I wish. I couldn't understand any of that. I'm so sad. Like, as far as I go, is like I can understand a lot of French, I can understand a lot of Spanish, a bit of Farsi, and then English, you know, country bumpkin.
Yeah.
But what is your biggest inner child belief, like small belief you're still working through, this belief that you might not be good enough? Or...
That I'm a fraud.
Yeah. I think that's everyone's.
Yeah. That at home I was the best thing ever, and maybe at school I was just like whatever, average. Just, you know, struggling to make it through it. So just to work through that whole thing that I'm not, you know, that's just how I was trying to please people in a way here and there, and feeling disconnected, you know, somehow.
Yeah. I think everyone can relate to that. It's so true. Thank you for voicing it, because it's so true. And then your biggest shadow belief, like the thing that why you're the worst, or the what, not that you believe those things, but the shadowy stuff that you're still having to integrate.
Well, I guess it's very in line to that, right? Like to not be able to deliver, or fear. Like fear is always such a big base, right? Yeah, like I guess work through this idea of, you know, who should I be for others and for myself. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
You know, challenge all this.
Totally.
And just what am I really, and what is important to me, and what can I do?
It's back
and that's
to your,
enough.
It's
Yeah.
enough, and it's
Yeah.
back to your practice, like coming back to your authentic, remembering your authentic self. Tell us about where everybody in here who wants to learn how to meditate, who wants to be a mindful parent, who wants to be a mindful entrepreneur, employee, how can we A, connect with you for sessions, and B, you have an incredible class once a month where people can come in and do these workshops with you digitally from all over the world.
Yeah.
In Spanish as well and Portuguese?
I will.
Okay.
I will bring it up. Maybe this month if I have the time, I will do it in English, in Portuguese and Spanish too. But if not, maybe next month.
Okay.
So this is I'm calling it the expansion program.
I love it.
And it's going to be a monthly class. And it's based on 5 pillars with awareness, acceptance, integrity, flow, and compassion. So I'm going to, really build from all these pillars to help people with some sort of like because I am so I'm so visual and I have to have things like really clear.
Yeah, me too.
So, so it's really a story. So those classes are going to be, they are monthly. It's already available in the website, communal-la.com. Or I can connect with people on a one-on-one. Just email me for private sessions.
And you do Skype too?
Skype sessions, yeah, to help with their meditation practice, establishing a practice, learning to meditate properly. If you feel like the apps are falling flat, which is most of the case, it's really not cutting, we really go there, we cater in a way that it can work for your own life. How is your life at the present moment? And I do, workshops, panels, talks, circles.
All over.
Yeah.
You're traveling more to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to interject and say, and if you're Latino or Latina and you are looking for someone who, with family or just anything like that, they've been looking for a resource, like Mariana is incredible because you're able to
speak Portuguese and Spanish. Yeah.
But go ahead if there's more. And we can find you on Instagram where?
Mariana Orkenyi, and the website's communal-la.com.
And anything upcoming, like in the next 2 months, people can come and see you in person at a workshop?
I have a last meditation here at the Freehand Hotel on November 11. And Vital Pertains are coming to do drinks, so it's going to be like a full thing. And then I am gone for the year. I'm going to go to Brazil. And next year, new things will come.
So on the site, just go check out the calendar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Events.
Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, I'm so grateful you came.
Thank you
so
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ plus community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.